Okay, Jeff, we are recording, and if you could raise your hand or send me a message on chat, we'll get started, and we'll start with Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Jeff, when you look back at the course of the season, what are the defining characteristics that stood out to you about this group?
Kind of I go back to my little mantra for myself, which is, we want our team to fit and we want our team to fight. And I do believe that those were our defining characteristics. And, I think that we came together when we had to, and we went through a lot of adversity at key moments. And ultimately, our guys banded together and supported one another. And I would say that the whole was greater than the sum of its parts. So that's a credit to them.
Josh Robbins, The Athletic.
Jeff, how would you evaluate the job the coaching staff did this year, considering what the team faced throughout the year?
I think we have an excellent coaching staff. Coach Clifford and all the assistants, they're tireless workers. Coach's messaging to our team throughout the season is always spot on. And I always feel that we're one of the best prepared teams in the league. So I think that's part of our team fighting, and our team fitting. And I don't think, we could have asked for anything more.
Phil Brossman-Wright, Orlando Magic Daily.
Hey Jeff, as you look to the offseason and how to improve this team and move this team forward, how do you evaluate this year with all the injuries that the team faced? I know you and John had said that you spent essentially half the season with a whole position down, and obviously the playoffs with a whole position down.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, on one hand, look, this is the NBA, and injuries are part of our league. So if you're not ready to go through injuries entering into a season, then you're probably not being realistic with yourself. So obviously, when we signed Farouk this season, I know it looked somewhat like it was said to look somewhat like a logjam. We kind of felt there was enough positional versatility with those guys that it wasn't. But ironically, by the time we got to the end of the season, none of those three players were available. So how do you assess the team? You assess it for what it is. Obviously, we will not have Jonathan Isaac next season, so that has to account into our thinking. But we'll get to all that stuff around the corner here as we start to really do a deeper dive into where we need to get better and start to discuss moving our team forward.
Roy Perry, Orlando Sentinel.
Good morning, Jeff. I know we've talked a lot about Markel's progress and how much that he has worked to get where he is, but how satisfying is it to see where he and encouraging it was to see where he got with his health, and in what ways did DJ's presence as a veteran point guard really benefit Markel this season?
Well, let me answer the second part first. I would say you have to ask Markel that. I can tell you that DJ is just he's a true professional. He's a pleasure to have around every day. He keeps it serious when it has to be serious, and he keeps it light when it can be light. And I know that our guys weigh his regard very, very heavily. As to the first part of the question, I think that, my hope for Markel is that we're moving past the point of talking about, what he dealt with before he came here. And now we're starting to evaluate him as a player. And that's a credit to him, that he's put himself in a position to now be evaluated on his ability. And so I would say that for my own my own kind of considerations that he had a hell of a rookie year. You know, I think that he proved that he's a starting point guard, and he also proved that he's got immense talent. He's got mental and physical characteristics that can't be taught. And now he's just got to mature as a player, and he's got a lot of maturing to do. He's just 22, and he's played very little NBA basketball. But I think that it was a huge step forward for him, and you know, knowing him, I look for him to continue to build on that.
Tim Reynolds, Associated Press.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Hey, Tim.
It's possible that you may have been asked this because I'm re-entering the bubble this morning, so I missed the first few minutes of your call. But how difficult is it for people who like to have plans for a living to not have a plan right now, because none of us really have any reasonable idea when next season is going to start and where it's going to be played and how, and if bodies will be in the arenas, we don't know. Just how difficult are the logistics and all the various scenarios to work through?
That is such a good question, and you're asking the right person, because I'm the ultimate that guy. The things that keep me up at night are those things, and I do like to plan, and I like to kind of deliberate over, you know, all of the decisions that we have to make. And right now, yeah, we're just in uncharted territory. You know, we have no idea when free agency will start, when the draft will be held, when camp or the season will start, what that will look like. So, you know, the first thing to do right now, I think, for our group is just to decompress. It's been a very, very intense emotional couple months, and we've, I think, been through more than most. And so right now, I'm just thankful that our coaches and our players and our staff can just get away for a little bit and breathe and spend good time with their families. All we can do is plan on the things that prepare for the things that we can plan on, which is that there will be a draft. You know, there will be a summer or an off season that we'll have to engage in with other teams. And so those are the kind of planning principles that we can build around. But it's a great question, because the timing and the way things are going to work, even to the point of what are summer workouts going to look like for our players in our facility. You know, these things are all very much TBD, and we'll just have to kind of roll with the punches.
Aaron Goldstone.
Thank you. Jeff, when you look at some of the ways some teams around the NBA played the Magic during the regular season and during the bubble, a lot of teams are moving towards this trend of moving away from traditional fives, traditional centers, and playing small, especially in their second unit. Your team has invested so much in two centers and Vucevic and Mo Bamba. Is that concerning at all to you when you think about roster makeup, that a lot of teams around the league are maybe valuing some other positions and moving away from traditional centers, traditional fives, where your team has invested so much in the past and those positions?
Well, I think that, you know, that's kind of a slippery slope, because when you say traditional fives, our two guys are not traditional fives. They're 3-point shooters. They're stretch players, and obviously, you know, Vooch is an all-star. You know, so he's tremendously skilled. He can pass, catch, shoot. He kind of quarterbacks us for part of the through much of our offense. And Mo is kind of, I would say, more of a modern big or 3-point shooting rim protector. So we don't consider those guys kind of like dinosaur old school fives that are just bangers who really can't hit a shot outside of 15 feet. They're more modern look players. And I can tell you that we've gotten a lot of calls from the teams that you're talking about those two players. So look, we all want to get to a kind of like positionless style of play. And for sure, you know, shooting has never been at a greater premium. It is becoming a skill-based game. But, you know, to use Vooch as an example, I don't know of a more skilled big than him. So I don't consider us, behind the times in that respect, if that's the right way to put it. I think that we have modern style, big men that can stretch the defense and take advantage in other areas of their size.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel.
Yeah, Jeff, obviously Mo has to get healthy. Is there any word on his health, and are you concerned about his development?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. First of all, let me be just clear with Mo. So Mo had really done a good job managing the hiatus. He had added weight. He had stayed in good condition. He entered our facility with a really good kind of baseline fitness level, and obviously our guys all had a time there to build on that for 3 or 4 weeks before we entered the bubble, and that was the plan with Mo. And then he contracted COVID. So, Mo, I think even in the bubble showed some flashes in some of the minutes that he was able to play, but he was never quite able to turn the corner on his conditioning. So we obviously had him evaluated, and we're glad that we did, because we were able to rule out anything serious, anything long-term. But that being said, he did have some conditions that were brought about by contracting COVID. And yeah, Mike, it is a setback. And unfortunately for Mo, summers, off-season times, they're just worth their weight in gold for young guys. You just can't get anything more valuable to young players than off-season time. And Mo just hasn't had that. He didn't have it, last year. He's now, going to have to wait to start ramping back up, this time. And I don't know if it's a concern. It just is what it is. I mean, Mo's been really dealt kind of a bad hand so far, but the great thing about Mo is that he keeps coming back, he keeps fighting, he keeps working through it. He's got a great attitude and approach, and that's. We always talk about character mattering, and that's why, because the NBA is all about adversity, and it's all about how you deal with adversity. That's what this league is about, first and foremost. And, Mo keeps coming, so yeah, it's a setback. I mean, I wish he didn't have to go through it. I wish we didn't have to go through it with him, but it is what it is. And he'll just have to forge ahead. He's got great ability. He's still just beginning his career. He's in the infancy stages of his career. His body's filling out, and he's already shown flashes when he's been given a chance of becoming a good player. So that's just what he'll have to deal with, and we'll go through that with him. And we have every confidence that he'll come out the other end being a very good player for a long time.
Paul Casanova.
Yeah, hi. I know you said these are uncertain times, and we all know that, but can you tell me what is your number one priority going into the off season?
No, I can't. It's too good of a question. Obviously, we're preparing for the draft. We are preparing for what free agency could potentially look like, and for us, we have a couple players with player options that have decisions for themselves to make, and we'll have to that could impact our own path. And so all those things figure in. I wouldn't say that there's one overriding concern or issue that we're facing. It's just like any summer. It's all it all is on the table, and it's all very interconnected. So you can't kind of answer one without the other. When you start like pulling that thread, then you start to see how things evolve and how everything fits together. And we won't really know that for a while yet, because it sounds like these dates aren't they're unknown right now.
Josh Cohn, OrlandoMagic.com.
Hey, Jeff, how much of your attention now shifts to the draft, and how different will evaluating prospects be this year compared to normal years?
Great question. I can tell you that we did a lot of work before the bubble on the draft. We were meeting, 3 times a week for many, many hours each day, watching video, ranking guys, putting guys into tiers, debating. And so I feel like we got a lot of work done, because we were preparing for a much earlier draft, and the draft has been moved back. So I feel like our kind of, baseline preparation is in a good place. We'll have to drill down closer as we see what information we get, which is to the point of your question. The league is working on some sort of virtual combine, and obviously it'll be something that none of us have ever been through, but we will not have in-person visits, in-person workouts, 5-on-5 in Chicago. So we'll have to figure out, other ways to do it. One thing I feel very comfortable with is that Matt Lloyd and Anthony Parker and Prosper and all of our scouts that go out and see games do a great job of really working and getting out there and getting eyeballs on players. So I think from that perspective, we're always going to be in a good position, and it'll be a matter of what kind of information that we get, and we've already had discussions about how we ourselves can do things differently according to that information. So we'll see. Kind of a great unknown, but I think it's a challenge that every team will face this summer. We'll have less information. In a nutshell, we'll have less information than we typically otherwise would, but we'll have to make the best of it.
Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Jeff, you talked earlier just about how valuable off seasons can be for young players. How valuable can this off season be for Markelle, especially when you look at it through the lens that for a large part of last off season, there were certain aspects of his game that he couldn't even work on?
Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, I think that this is going to be a huge summer for Markelle, and I think that it's going to be a great summer for Markelle because this is the first time, you can tell somebody something as much as you want, but when the person lives through it, Markelle knows now. He knows what he needs. He played significant minutes in the playoff series against the #1 team in the league. So, he knows now what those words mean and what he needs to do. And, he's a dedicated, committed guy. And, I think that it'll be a big summer for him. Some of what you talked about, that he can move past some of the things that he's had as obstacles previously. And I think that those together are going to be part of his maturity. Like I said, he's a young guy. He's got to mature. Like you wouldn't expect. I look at this as his rookie year. I think a lot of us do. And I'd say he had a hell of a rookie year. And so this summer will be about building on that. And to your point, he'll be able to do things maybe that he wasn't sure he could do before, consistently on a consistent basis. So I think this is about, it's about conditioning. It's about game management. It's about, continuing to work on his skills and everything else that, most guys do. Now he can, be one of the guys and just do that, like a move past the stuff that have been in his way in previous summers.
Great. I'm not sure if I got you. Roy Perry, Orlando Sentinel.
Jeff, obviously you guys dealt with just a slew of injuries, right as you got into the bubble and going forward. But, as far as with Aaron, and I know that you guys have always taken the long view when it comes to injuries with players, but can you just kind of talk about the frustration and then also trying to balance when you've got a guy who's close to coming back, but he's not quite ready, and trying to get him back and, especially into a playoff series where you really need a guy like that?
Roy, I mean, AG was bouncing off the walls, man. That guy wanted to play so badly. And, every day we would practice, he would have his own kind of regimen on the sideline with our performance staff to just try to ramp him up a little more. And, sprinting, jumping off one leg, sliding. We put him into some semi-live situations. And it just wasn't quite there. It just wasn't quite there. And I can tell you that he'd have played on one leg if we'd allowed him to. But those are tough situations, especially when guys really go through the whole season and, you really much of your career, to be in those moments, to play in those games, and then to have that right in front of you and not be able to take part, it was tough. It was tough. It was, just part of the emotion that our team and obviously, to your question, that Aaron went through these past couple months. And not fun, not fun.
All right, back to Josh Cohn, OrlandoMagic.com.
Are there any health updates on Chuma Okeke, and could he potentially be available for next season?
Yeah, Chuma's done really well. He's progressed through pretty much, he's at, I would say, the late stage of his rehab and development. And, this is where things get tricky because we don't know exactly what the protocol for player workouts are going to be this summer. And, if we're going to kind of follow suit, which right now are the protocols, to like pre-bubble facility management, it's 1 on 0, obviously observing all the health and safety protocols, which we've kind of gone above and beyond. But Chuma's going to need live action. He's going to need to play, and right now we don't have any forum for that. So he's done very well. He's an amazing kid, and I really believe that our fans are going to love him. He's of the utmost character. He's all about team first. It's the way that he plays. It's the way that he thinks. And he's done really well with his rehab. It's just that there's really no forum right now for him to really kind of take that to the next level. So we look very much forward to him being a part of our team next year. And, I'm just hopeful that as we progress through this off season, there are ways to, ramp up his development through more live action. But we're limited right now.
Okay, if there's other questions, please raise your hand or hit the chat. We'll go back to Jamie Say, WKMG.
Hey Jeff, just when you say Chuma is in his late stage of rehab, what does that look like? What kind of things, is he doing right now?
Well, he's able to do on-court work. So, but as I said, we can't do anything live. He's not allowed to do anything, with players or anything. No one is. I mean, I'm not singling out Chuma. This is like the league protocol. Before we went into the bubble, you're allowed to come into the facility and shoot, but that's all. So you can kind of do drill work and skill work, but you can't progress to live stuff, body on body. So he's doing on-court work. He's doing skill work. He's working on his shooting, and he's conditioning and everything. And as I said, late stage development of his rehabilitation.
Phil Brossman Reich, Orlando Magic Daily.
Hey Jeff, as the team dealt with adversity from what you observed, how much did making the playoffs last season kind of help them kind of get through this season and get back into the postseason? And how valuable do you still think it was for them to be in the playoffs for a second straight year, as they move into some of the uncertainty of what next season is going to be like?
I mean, you just can't define how important it is to be part of the playoffs. To be one of the last teams playing. Even when we were in the bubble in Disney, I think a couple of teams series had wound up prior to ours, and the campus started to feel a little empty. And it's kind of you're walking around thinking like we're one of the last teams playing, and to go through the length, the duration, the all the false endings. You think like, oh, we're at this point in the season. No, it keeps going. We're 5 games out. No, it keeps going. We're facing this team. Well, we beat them game 1, and what you just keep going, and you keep enduring, and you keep fighting. And as I always say, as the significance of those games comes into view, you just feel that responsibility and that sense of weight, that everything you do matters. And that's how players grow and develop into playing like in really important, minutes. And I saw some quote that Gary Clark had a couple weeks ago about didn't realize this, how intense a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo is on every single possession, and how every single possession matters that much. And so for young guys to go through that is just, you can't put a price tag on what that's worth to a player's growth. And then, as far as making the playoffs twice in a row, I felt that we talked a lot in the off season about, listen, you don't get to just pick up where you were last year and bring that into next season. You have to reestablish that. And I felt that, you can talk about it all you want, but clearly it was something that we needed to learn. And we did this year kind of what we did last year, which is we really picked up steam as the season went on. And I know it's well documented, we were coming. I mean, we were playing really good basketball. We had our next 5 games against non-playoff teams. And there were a lot of similarities between this year and last year. And then obviously, we shut down the season and we go into the bubble. But now what I would say is I think our guys are comfortable who they are. They know how we win. It's been 2 years with Coach Clifford. And I think that there needs to be growth and there will be growth in our approach to how we translate this into the next season. And that's the maturation of young players and the maturation of the team. And that's what I would hope for. Obviously, I think when you're dealing with all the uncertainties that we're dealing with right now, it's you can't really relate those things to historical context because who knows what it's going to be like, going forward. But I think that it's very valuable that a team that hadn't really been in the playoffs in a long time and that had kind of started to infiltrate maybe the way of thinking is now not looking at themselves that way. And now it's about, building on that.
Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Jeff, how do you, just in loose terms, I know every draft year is different. How do you feel about the spot you're picking at this year and, what potentially could be available to you and, in a success that I guess you guys have had, you and John had some success in the past at?
Yeah. Well, I think that, we're going to be looking at a lot of good players at 15. We've kind of got our tiers broken down. I don't anticipate that changing a whole lot. But it's wide open. It's wide open. It's so early. And obviously, we already have our pick from last year, Chuma, who we look forward to integrating. And so I think we're in a good place with being able to add a talented young player with good character to our team. I think that there will be some tough decisions to be made because there will be some good players on the board.
Okay, any final questions for Jeff Weltman? Go back to Jamie Say, WKMG.
Hey, Jeff, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the job that Vooch did in the bubble and maybe the example that he set for the rest of his teammates.
What can you say? I mean, Vooch was so good. I mean, he played so well. And, this is the player that Vooch is, I mean, he is a modern big, he stretches the floor, but he can also punish a mismatch if you want to try to guard him with a wing. He's got a very high IQ, a very high skill set. And I think that what we saw in the bubble was just laser-like focus. He was very consistent. He was very focused. And, he clearly, elevated our team. So I thought he was great.
And I'll go back to Roy Perry, Orlando Sentinel.
Jeff, just wanted to clarify on Mo. Is he continuing to be evaluated for his post coronavirus, and maybe what are those evaluations telling you, if you can share that?
Well, I won't get into specifics, but he did have some complications, arising from COVID, and it'll take a little time for everything to clear his system. As I said, we've ruled out everything. The doctors have ruled out anything that's serious, but it will take some time to clear his system, and that'll probably be measured in months, not weeks. So, that's really something that is not going to be a long-term issue. He's going to have complete recovery. But we'll just have to monitor his workload as we get through that. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Jeff, if you can just hang on the line for a moment. And we appreciate everyone joining us today. And we will keep you updated as to other opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.